Hey there, I'm Tony DeCopel. This is The Uplift. We got a great show for you, great cast of characters as well. Among them, these. Trooper the dog, you might recognize him. He was abandoned in a Florida hurricane. That was Hurricane Milton. Well, now there's an update to his story, and of course, it's an uplifting one. Also, a man who uses Christmas decorations to spread joy and show someone very special in his life just how much he loves her. And a young boy who isn't afraid to stand out in a crowd, see how his individuality inspired others. And Betty Crocker, you may know her cake mixes and timeless recipes, but who is she? You'll find out coming up. You're watching The Uplift. Hey there, welcome to The Uplift, the show that lifts you up for at least the next 30 minutes, you and me as well. We're going to begin with a lesson on individuality and the power that comes from standing out among the crowd. Here is Steve Hartman.
Good morning. I'm with Meryl, and I'm sporting a new do for this lesson on
individuality.
Emmett at the dictionary desk. How would you define this word?
Individuality is what separates you from the crowd, not by the way you look per se, but rather the choices you make.
Like your choice to put pink in your hair.
Exactly. And not making the choice because it's popular, but because it feels right for you. For example, Emmett, you wouldn't want to go to school tomorrow wearing pink in your hair just because I did.
Wasn't planning on it.
Great. Point is, your identity is yours to craft. And of course, I have an example to illustrate. A story about a kid who is definitely his own individual.
Most 8-year-old boys don't get dressed to the nines. To them, suits are for bathing, and formal is a 4-letter word. But James Ramage of Chelsea, Maine loves to dress for 3rd grade success. He started a couple years ago, and at first, the other kids didn't know what to think.
Every time I saw him, I was just like, okay. And I'm like, why is he dressing up?
James knew he stood out.
Did you just decide one day, I don't care what other people are wearing?
I don't need to look like them anymore. I can be who I want to be.
In any school, a decision like that can go a few different ways. You can be accepted for who you are, ostracized for who you aren't, or, in very rare circumstances, you can become a trendsetter.
It just kind of started.
Then more people started to do it.
Because it looked fun, and now people absolutely love it.
Today, once a week, Chelsea Elementary kids put on their finest for Dapper Wednesday. It's not a dress code. It's not because some adult said so. It's because the children chose so.
Nice dresses.
Teacher Dean Paquette was an early adopter and now an avid advocate.
Stop, look at this. You look awesome.
Being dressed up, kids are different.
It is.
I think it's a self-esteem thing, and then it carries with them all the way through the day.
All right.
The kids agree. Told me they love how it feels.
I'm a little itchy, but it's fine.
Figuratively speaking.
It feels like I'm not a kid anymore. It made me feel like I was ready for the day.
Feels like I'm like a president.
When James started all this, he had no idea the impact.
What's it like to be a trendsetter?
It just feels so nice.
But he doesn't think every kid should wear suits. Just whatever suits them.
Just wear what they want to wear.
Individuality. Always a good look.
James Ramage joins us now. Hello, James.
Hi.
Do you remember why you started wearing suits?
I think it was just because how it felt nice when I put it on.
Is it hard at the beginning to do something no one else is doing?
A little bit, but not as much. People just kept giving me more and more compliments, and that's how I got through it.
So is this all about the compliments, James?
No,
What else is it about?
how you feel, not how other people feel, how you look.
That's a great message. James, do you notice anything different about me today?
Your hair
Yeah, what do you think of it?
looks pretty good.
It's my individuality, James. And you don't have to copy it just because I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like you're going to. All right. James, thank you so much for talking with us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
In school, you have courses to take and rules to follow. But there's one thing you have to figure out on your own, and that's your individuality. Whether you dress up or down, wear pink hair or gray, doesn't matter. Just you, be you. We'll see you next time.
And don't forget to stay kind.
Jamie Yuccas now introduces us to a pair of twins who have an incredible bond, not just because they are sisters, but because they went on a major life journey together.
We had that 80s hair, man. Yeah, we sure did.
Identical twins, Karen Rodman and Linda Thomas, have rarely been apart, even raising their families in the same neighborhood.
You live near each other.
Yep. Yeah.
You finish each other's sentences.
Yeah. All the time. Yeah.
And now you've been on this journey together.
Yeah.
Linda had survived cancer, but the treatment severely weakened her kidneys. They were failing.
And she said, I'm right here, I'll give her mine. And they kept telling me, you don't have to do this. There's other options. Your sister can do dialysis, but like, what kind of quality of life is that?
Last month at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles, doctors performed the kidney transplant. Being an identical twin meant Karen not only was a perfect match, but Linda would not need to take rejection drugs. The prognosis is excellent.
Will this Thanksgiving be extra special?
For sure. We're all going to be whole again. Yeah, and it's all in the rearview mirror now. I love my sister, and I had no doubt that she would do this, because if it was the other way around, I would do it for her.
Not just a donation, but eternal devotion. Jamie Yuccas, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Coming up, as thousands of schools across the U.S. are now closed due to low enrollment, what happens to the empty buildings? We take you to one former school in Detroit that has a new life and a new purpose. Cities across the country have been closing schools because they do not have enough students to fill them. Low enrollment closed a middle school in Detroit, but when it happened, the building actually got new life. Here's Meg Oliver.
I got maximum energy on.
Every day after school in Detroit, this is where you can find 12-year-old Kayvon Thomas. Sinking threes and dreaming of playing for the Pistons.
What does this gym mean to you?
It means a lot because this is really where I learned how to play basketball.
Yet just a few years ago, this former elementary school on the city's west side sat empty.
Nationwide, urban schools have lost around 850,000 students since 2019. School closures often hit underserved communities the hardest. Here in Detroit, they've closed around 200 schools in the last few decades.
What was the reaction like when the elementary school closed?
The reaction was not good, as you would expect. We're in Detroit, and a lot of people were upset.
Detroit native Brandy Hagens works for the nonprofit Life Remodeled. In 2017, when low enrollment forced Durfee Elementary School to merge with the high school, her team moved in to renovate the abandoned building.
It's not just community history, it's personal history for a lot of people, and it's hurtful. And so what better way to work with the community than to reopen their school building into something that still belongs to them?
The renovation process began with the neighborhood. For a week, thousands of volunteers pitched in, picking up trash, mowing lawns, and boarding up vacant homes.
When I drive into this area now, it's actually a lot cleaner. It's a lot happier. It's a lot brighter.
Then they refurbished the building, calling it the Durfee Innovation Society, and filling it with free resources from job placement for adults to youth programs for students like Kayvon.
Now that everybody started going to the DIS, it's more kind of like calm after school.
His grandma, Deborah Nobles, calls the DIS a godsend for the neighborhood.
My grandson has excelled in school. He's in every kind of program they have. He knows how to play chess, he can play golf, he can play tennis. He's a robotics person.
Knowing that this has worked here, could this be a nationwide model for other schools that have closed across the country?
This should be a nationwide model for other schools that have closed across the country. I think taking a school building or any historical building that means something to a community and repurposing it into something that's for the community, that's huge and necessary.
Life Remodeled is now renovating another former school in Detroit and is designing a playbook to help other organizations across the country do the same.
What do you want to tell the people who created the DIS?
I would just want to thank them, because a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now wouldn't be possible without going to the DIS.
How does your future look now?
My future looks very bright, very bright.
Meg Oliver, Detroit.
Coming up, some of us who really like to bake rely on the timeless recipes of Betty Crocker. She's been helping us whip up sweet treats for more than a century. But who is Betty? Plus, meet the man who doesn't just decorate his own house for Christmas, he does the whole goddamn neighborhood. Find out why he does it after the break. Some of you in the luckiest of families might be doing a lot of baking for the holidays with a little help from Betty Crocker. Well, we wanted to know, who is this Betty Crocker, Queen of Cakes? CBS Minnesota's Kirsten Mitchell dug into the history of the so-called First Lady of Food.
She is Betty Crocker. So is she, and her, and her too.
There is a little bit of a rumor that she's supposed to be forever 32.
General Mills archivist Natasha Burns is about to spill the tea.
Betty Crocker is not a real person, and I know that surprises quite a few people.
The First Lady of Food was born from a puzzle and a pincushion.
In 1921, the predecessor to General Mills ran an advertisement on the back of the Saturday Evening Post, and it was a puzzle that consumers were invited to cut out, paste together, and as a prize, you would receive one of these miniature flour sack pincushions.
The promotion garnered 30,000 responses.
Something they weren't expecting was to receive all of these questions on baking and cooking.
So they launched a persona to respond.
They chose Betty, because Bettys are super friendly. Who doesn't love a Betty?
Just a good name.
Right? And Crocker was the name of a recently retired director.
A contest was held among employees to choose her iconic signature.
So here she is.
Then in 1924,
You're Betty Crocker.
Hello, everybody.
Betty Crocker found her voice on a WCCO radio show.
In the 1920s, 1930s, America was going through some pretty rough times, and Betty Crocker really was an ear that was listening to people and helping them through these tough times, like how to stretch rations or how to get by on a much more limited budget.
She appeared on TV.
Hello, everybody.
And in the height of her popularity, she was getting more than 5,000 letters a day, all answered by women working in the home service department.
So these are all of the women who actually worked on Betty Crocker.
The real Bettys.
Yeah, the real Bettys behind Betty Crocker. Every single one of these women featured in 1947 had a college degree.
The cookbooks and test kitchen tours sold like hotcakes.
I was lucky enough to interview quite a few women who worked for the Betty Crocker kitchens, many of whom went to school right here at the University of Minnesota St. Paul campus, Home Economics Department.
Susan Marks wrote Finding Betty Crocker.
On the surface, Betty Crocker looks like she represents a very traditional female role. But if you look a little further into her radio shows, she was really promoting and empowering women and would always interview women who were doing things outside of the homes.
The brand has evolved some with the times. Her 75th birthday portrait was made from a computerized composite of real women.
They invited consumers to nominate women in their life who represented the values of Betty Crocker.
So this Betty is really like 75 different women around the country.
Yes, correct.
All combined into one.
Mm-hmm. A marketing genius ingrained in our culture and our kitchens. With photojournalist Jose Pascual, Kirsten Mitchell, WCCO News.
'Tis the season for holiday lights and decor, and for one man, putting up Christmas displays is a labor of love, honoring his wife of 53 years. Here's Nancy Cordes with his story.
Santa Claus isn't driving a sleigh this year in Indianola, Iowa.
And then I just go house to house to house.
And instead of presents,
Ta-da!
He's bringing joy and light.
This is his labor of love.
74-year-old John Reichert spent his money and his time to give everyone on his block a holiday house.
I said,
are you crazy? But he did it. I think the whole neighborhood is just feels very blessed to have him in this neighborhood.
John loves Christmas, but there's someone he loves more. His wife of 53 years, Joanne.
I love all the angels.
Joanne was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 4 years ago. Since then, the Marine veteran has made it his mission to keep making her new memories.
If it wasn't for my wife, I don't know if I would have done it. But she wanted Christmas, so I'd give it to her. I'll do anything to make her happy.
I didn't know what to think, but I'm glad he did it. I love him.
Word got out, and now there are helpers in hoodies.
Is that better or is it worse?
Beautiful.
And a steady stream of admirers for the lights and the love.
And to think that he's done all this work just to make her happy. That's what Christmas and love is.
John says he can't see stopping now.
As long as she's okay, and even if she would pass, I'm going to do it in her memory, as long as I can do it.
Coming up, when Trooper the dog was abandoned before Hurricane Milton, he was very lucky to be rescued just in the nick of time, but he still needed a family to go home to. David Begnaud has an update on Trooper. It's coming up. David Begnaud recently brought us the story of Trooper the dog, who had been abandoned ahead of Hurricane Milton, tied to a fence, then rescued by a state trooper, hence that name, Trooper the dog. Well, now David's got an update on this dog that stole hearts all across America.
Look at this! This is Trooper Duper!
You are looking at the moment when Trooper the dog met his forever family,
We're going to be best friends, I can tell you that.
including his new sister, Dallas. The photo of their initial meeting seemed to say it all. It looked like love at first sight. But as many of you know now, this is where Trooper's story went viral. A call came into police that a dog was tied to a post.
I don't blame you.
Abandoned in chest-deep water as Hurricane Milton barreled toward Florida in October.
I am in love with this little guy.
But after meeting Trooper, we were confident.
Look what I got.
That with patience,
Belly rubbed.
a little love, and yes, a whole lot of belly rubs, he was going to thrive in the right home. And over the last few weeks, hundreds of people have applied to be his forever family.
The outpour has been so great.
Amy Radar with the Leon County Humane Society in Tallahassee told us that they were looking for a very specific person to adopt Trooper. You see, bull terriers are a unique breed, known for being sweet dogs, but they are also high energy, strong, and bull-headed.
I don't always say people have to have breed experience, but for that particular dog, I think it's important.
He deserves it.
Yes. Fill the whole thing up to the top.
400 miles south of Tallahassee, in Parkland, Florida, near Miami, a friend forwarded a story about Trooper to Carla Spina. She showed it to her husband, Frank.
I said to Frank, did you hear this story? And see, I'm going to start crying. So he said, yeah, I didn't tell you because I knew you would get upset.
That is because the Spinas are bull terrier owners. But more importantly, they love this particular breed.
We've always had an affinity for bull terriers. That's the breed that we love, and they're special.
They got their first bull terrier named Crunchy in 1992, followed by Diesel.
Let's cut this way.
And a few years ago, they adopted Dallas.
When we saw Trooper, it was kind of relighting that same fire. We saw this dog, we know he needs help.
So they applied, but there was one major hurdle: Frank. You see, Trooper is wary of men because of his past trauma, and the Humane Society wasn't sure if it was going to work out.
So I said, well, how about if we get in the car and drive 7.5 hours to Tallahassee, and I'll show you what 33 years of bull terrier dad does. So we did that. And when we got there, they let him loose, and Amy said, Frank, why don't you sit on that bench and see what happens? And he came over and he got under my legs, and I started scratching his neck, and his foot started moving, and she said, Perfect match.
And that first meeting, I mean, as you saw, everyone seemed to be pretty smitten.
It's Trooper!
It's Trooper!
Here's your brother!
We were there when Amy delivered Trooper to his new parents.
Dally loves you. She gives you kisses. They really like each other. They do. They're two buddies.
I've never felt this comfortable leaving him.
We'll take good care of it.
I know you will, and if you call me.
Okay. Wait, I brought the sunglasses. There you go.
It's happy tears, not
Yes.
sad tears.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
It didn't take long for Trooper to start making himself feel right at home.
We got you, buddy. We got you. You're in good hands with us.
And seeing him at his new home with his new dad, it's kind of hard to believe that's the same dog who was afraid of men.
We're just really happy.
Yeah, we're
and
really excited. We're really excited. It's almost like we had a baby. We just can't believe that a month ago we saw this news report, and now a month later he's in my bedroom.
For the Spinas, they feel like a missing piece of their family has now been found. And as for our buddy Trooper, yes, life was tough and it was rough. But what we can faithfully report to you today is that he seems happy.
We just wanted everybody to know that we're going to give him the best life.
We can't believe it. It's like a dream. It's like a dream come true.
That's our show. I hope it brightened your day. I hope it lifted you up. If for some reason it didn't, recall that those reruns, they're always free. You can press play anytime. Go ahead and do so. See you next time. I'm going to get some good news around the corner.